G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 31st of January 2025. I'm your host, the author, David Applegate, and the war continues, of course. It'll be the first thing I tell you if it was over. It'll be in the title, I tell you. But this is the slowest war since the Battle of the Somme, okay? And technically, well, World War I was pretty slow in many parts. The rapid expansion in the first, I think it was only 6 months, which is weird. It had the fastest opening, the quickest closing. European wars, because until then, European wars had dragged out over long periods of time. But the actual battles, I should say, battles, not wars, but in itself, it's neither here nor there. It's just a matter of fitting words into the title. And yeah, some analysts have predicted that two things. One, Putin is deliberately slowing down to not provoke the Europeans into combat. Or two, they are indeed, as some indicators from other Putin speeches, indeed getting to the end, right? That they want to take the momentum out of their own army so they don't get, so when orders orders to dig in and hold, that they won't be tempted to, but the other village is just another kilometer. We all know, we've all heard about Operation Marker Gun, the bridge too far. Well, perhaps Odessa, Mykolaiv, Krivitsy, some of these towns are the bridge too far, right? Remember, the Russian Empire did expand much bigger than it currently is, right? And a lot of its jewels are no longer in its crown. Now, the extraterritorial part of Russia, if Putin was to really go for it, I think then Trump would have a serious talk with him. But right now, it does appear, right, Putin is only going after the former territorial Russia. Now, as far as we know, he has no ambitions to Georgia or Estonia, which is actually exactly the tip of Germanica, not the Russian Empire. Although Kreutzberg was officially German till the Polish, and again the Poles. Well, it's neither here nor there, right? Slavic Germanic mix, and then there's birth to get more and more back to the roots of this, and of course the Slavic people generally and the Russian people generally were on good terms until communism. But for most people, though, if I was to say, even at its height, even with the fall of Pavlovsk and Bakhmut, the average to date is 70 meters a day. Only 70 meters. So while that's confirming what I've said to you for quite some time, this is a very slow war. This is watching molasses, and it is deliberate. Some don't think so, but I think, yeah, this year has been the slowest so far. And, this is the study of, this is a group, was it? I know I should know, but I'm looking up. This is the Center for Strategic and International Studies. This is the government think tank that for American security. Okay, they study war so that American war planners have the paper and the maps, the tactics, strategy, goals, means, methods, aims, all in strategical study purposes, right? One of the battlefield maps, of course, is of the Russian advance, is the timeline. And it really is you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 groupings right now. And main grouping at Kherson, the second grouping south of Zaporozhye, a grouping at Mariupol, a grouping at Pavlovsk, a grouping that is taking care of Chevesya, Lyman, and Kupiansk, and another group at Kursk. This is actual armies. I'm not talking about small battle groups that are broken off. These are big armies, right? But these are smaller armies. Okay, so you have center at Pavlovsk is the most has been the most productive of the Russian armies, and it is actually the biggest of the battle groups in the area. But 2024 was their fastest, and 2026 so far, well, is off to the slowest start. 50 kilometers, yeah. And this is, again, slow and deliberate, but it's to give you the an idea, right? You have Europe, particularly NATO, putting out mixed messages. They said there's no threat in the Arctic. They just held a 3-day battle drill. Ends tomorrow. A battle drill for the Arctic without the US, claiming that there's no threat in Greenland, no threat in the Arctic. They're saying to the US, no, there's nothing wrong. And at the same time, they are holding defense of Greenland, defense of Sweden. So, yeah. Now, on the other hand, there are a group of islands that were claimed and occupied after the war by Russia. Nobody claimed them before. Some of them were German. So there is really nothing of immediate value land-wise, and ocean-wise. The farming or fishing, whatever you call it, has been settled for some time. But let's be real. There's oil. And Britain wants to keep the claim to themselves and won't release the data. Now, Russia's, course, biggest fear is a oil glut, which would be followed by a shortage, because as an oil glut would cause many producers to shut. And once these gluts run out, which they do, then they have a massive shortage. So, yeah, this is pretty much a threat. If you threaten another country's economy, that's what Britain intends to do with this oil glut. But so far, Keir Starmer has not pulled the trigger, nor is he in a position to, because this oil glut, would take time to build up manpower and resources. And UK is, of course, facing a political storm in the fact that some people believe that it's the opposite. They didn't discover and cap this oil to create a glut, but to create a shortage, to intentionally find and cap off oil so it can't be used as drive the prices up even higher to make his windmills, look uber profitable because of the high cost of energy, right? Energy is at a high cost. He thinks, mate, windmills would be lower cost somehow, even though they're not lower cost, they're subsidised. Subsidised by oil, just like Denmark is subsidised by oil, just like Norway is subsidised by oil. All these glorious utopias are subsidised by oil and sovereign funds, right? Let's not pretend that they are altruistic. The Greens, particularly Susan Sarandon, are funded by Qatar and other oil interests, and Ukraine is dipping their finger into this political influence sphere, and so far they've been successful at it, right? They want to reclaim their territories. Nothing to do with, nothing to do with the fact they wanted to ethnic cleanse the Donbass and Crimea so they could take the oil off the Russians. Remember, they want this oil here, right? To do that, they have to have a justification for the European war to seize this coast, which Ukraine claims is part of their strategic defense. This area must become a buffer zone to protect Ukraine. So when they talk about security guarantees, what you and I may think about security guarantees is not what Zelensky wants, okay? Zelensky's a porky pig, right? And to show you the sheer stupidity, the day after that Putin invited Zelensky and the US for peace talks in Moscow to complete discussions on ending the war, Zelensky says, nope, they must be in Kiev. It's like, no, bro, you're a fucking moron. Okay, the ONS missile, you make fun of it all the time, but that's only because you're a gutless wonder, right? You know that Putin wasn't going to use it until you decided to provoke him, and you're provoking him again, hoping this time the European outrage will come to my rescue. Instead of what the common man would think is, you provoke their fight, bitch. You fight your own fight. You went up to her. You went up and punched the biggest guy in the prison yard. Nobody's going to step in and protect you when he beats you up, right? You got your sucker punch in, right? But now you're paying the price. However, as you can see, this is one of the reasons why it's the slowest war. There are so many parts of the battlefield where there's no movement, right? No movement, right? Ukrainian troops are settled in on the borders. Russian troops now and again exchange fire. Now and again the Ukrainians retreat, but that's only in a few areas, and it's not much, right? It's mainly, right now, there are areas where Russia has been forced to withdraw. Of course, those pluses and minuses are all taken into account, and this is all allegedly done with markers tracking what they call Glosnos, so tracking movement on reports of Russians, and all this information strategically calculated to doesn't have to be highly accurate, but it's just fairly probable. All right, now, one of the problems is the war casualties is that there is still a bias in that they'll report amazing losses for Russia, but never for Ukraine. But if Ukraine wasn't suffering immense losses and Russia was, Russia couldn't be advancing if they were losing that many people, right? It puts their army, right, at total decimation, which is impossible, right? Impossible to hide. There are no big vigils in Russia. There are no mass funerals. They are only 20 to 30 a day at most. There was 29 yesterday. Military parades for about 1,000. You know, the last body handover yesterday, there was less than 19 dead Russians. Ukraine ain't making a dent in Russia's army, right? Russia is outnumbered because Ukraine is pouring it on and losing. Now, this is allegedly an offensive, but it's a slow slog. But Russia's done this before, slow slog, and yeah. Now, as I said, I thought they were slowing down to start formulating their borders, right? Now, there's no way at 50 meters a day they're going to take Donetsk by the end of this year, right? They have to start. I think this is why Putin is at a slow slog, right? He's looking at the cost of the war. He wants the people of Donetsk and Lugansk and any of the remaining Russians who want to join Russia to join Russia. But I think also, increasingly, he wants to drive out the socialists, right? Go fuck off. Go fuck off. Go fuck around in Europe and find out. Okay? Because though the socialists are coming in a hot third, they're still a political force. And that's the problem, isn't it? That these morons. Now, there are other issues and problems like the winters, and they take their toll, you know, reduced fighting time. This is all but fallen. They're fighting in the center of town. The Ukrainians are trying to push back, but yeah. And the Ukrainian counterattack here, which is probably expected by the Russians. Because there's clearing operations also going on. No, I think Russia's going to have to really step up the political effort and military effort and start fencing off, becoming, bringing this to an end. Because if you can't keep talking about bringing it to an end without taking action to bring it to an end. Otherwise, people stop believing you. And when people stop believing you, the momentum that is already against you grows again, right? For now, the momentum is against Ukraine. The fatigue, Ukraine fatigue, is setting in, right? Channels that once got hundreds of thousands are down to 40,000. People are tuning out of this. We're taking our land back. We're taking our land today. We're about to take our land back. The offensive after offensive after offensive should have told you, right? If Russia's lost 300,000, right? Well, who lost the other, right? There's only two. If 1.5 million died and Russia only lost 325,000, and they said, no, they lost 300,000 in February. I hate February. This is what they do, though, right? They pumped out so much propaganda they can't even keep track of their own lies anymore. But they are obviously even forgetting their own, right? If Russia's lost 320,000, that's half their army in Ukraine, by the way. Right? How come Ukrainian with an 800,000 army hasn't been able to advance? So what if Russia's hardly winning? The fact is you won't admit they're winning at all most of the time. The fact that Western is not sitting down negotiating, right, This is the trade-off, right? Where to freeze the battlefield and a series of undoing the sanctions. No, instead, Keir Starmer says there'll be no lifting of the sanctions until Ukraine gets all its land back. So you just permanently cut Russia off, and they say, we can't negotiate with you. All right, no negotiations, fine, go. And this is the problem. More and more countries, right, from 23 to 25, were joining the sanctions list, laughing all the way. But now Germany's regretting it, saying that it may cost them in the long term 30% of their economy because they killed their economic growth. Right? They've killed future growth. So by 2035, they've lost 30% of their economy. It's not too late to undo the damage, but they have to rebuild the Nord Stream. They have to open up the other pipelines, not just Nord Stream. It wasn't just the Russians. They were going to get oil from other countries as well. Gas, oil, right? Germany was set to... Now Poland's set to do it all. Right? Poland set to become $1 trillion economy. Now they're going to work on Belarus, trying to stir up shit there. You know, Ukraine going, we've got to free our brothers. You know, sooner or later you're going to realise he's the warmonger, right? He ran on peace. 6 weeks later, there's a full-blown war in Ukraine. No, not a full-blown war, but you know what I mean. A technical conflict in which Russia has assault forces have entered Timu and Russia's assault forces again crossed the river in multiple places. Now I'm surprised they haven't pushed up here, but I think again Putin is weighing his options every day, depending on the battlefield situations. But I'm thinking, you know, Russia has to somehow navigate all the different internal push, right, particularly to start setting a border, a set of negotiations. Now, sure, in theory, they're winning. You give them you give them the 4 they've asked for, and the peace agreement, right? But Ukraine's a sore loser. They won't stop fighting, right? And the only way to deal with sore losers is to leave them alone. Let them suffer the consequences of their actions. You can't save them. Ukraine cannot be saved. They are belligerent. They are narcissistic. They are greedy. They are ungrateful. They keep demanding that you save them. They are never going to stop demanding. They caused all the revolutions that led to the uprisings. They slaughtered their own people in the past. They have no guilt over communism, but they want you to have guilt over slavery. They are suffering an energy crisis. Trump has asked Putin to stop bombing energy facilities. So far, Trump has just got the strike in Kiev for a week. And apparently this was announced today, even though February 1st is tomorrow, Ukraine time. Kiev is set to be 9 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, or 23 degrees Celsius below zero. About 20. This is deadly temperatures. Again, Ukraine whines about targets while claiming, they blew up a business. Yeah, what was it? A drone factory, of course. Diplomacy. Zelensky says he invited Putin. Well, if he dares, he dares. See, all this provocation, constantly calling him a coward. Zelensky's the coward. He's hidden away and protected. He is a worthless coward. Right? Evidence of war crimes. What war crimes? You know, the media has their bias, right? They're anti-Russian, anti-Israel. They can't report neutrally. Okay? They never mention the 1,123 war crimes by, these are documented by the UN, by the way, by Gaza. 1,123. It's not even a fucking year. That's like multiple war crimes a day. But the UN buries its report and nobody reads it. It's the same with war crimes in Ukraine. All the filings get ignored. Okay? There's no morality in the UN anymore. But this is a positive sign. Now, why would Russia do this? Why would they give Trump something and not Europeans something? It's a clear signal. Russia wants nothing to do with you whining, socialist, narcissists who cannot take a fucking hint. Right? You're a European liberals are warmongers, okay? They don't win elections. They rig elections. They have a corrupt bureaucracy, right? Everything is propagandized, right? Constantly brainwashing kids about climate change and energy efficiency. Yet they do nothing but rely on American technology to achieve most of their goals. And their economies are all subsidized by America. But the Russian envoys asked Europe to get behind Trump's peace plan and asked why. Why won't you, right? Now, apparently, Zelensky is whining about a batch of air defense missiles that didn't arrive because Europe did not pay for them. He won't pay his own bills. He gets all this military aid and then says, no, you got to pay the bills. So where's all this aid gone? Instead of blaming Trump for everything, support the peace plan. Now, Ukrainian leaders are belligerent. It's not just Zelensky, it's Ukraine. Ukraine has a mental disorder, right? An entitlement syndrome where they ask and ask and ask and ask. And they start getting, we've seen this before, this culture of entitlement in America, where you had mass protests demanding housing and healthcare, and you had this in the UK as well. People whose total narcissism, and the more they got, the less productive they got, right? Women are now less productive, 31% less productive than men. His latest grievances with European leaders who are increasingly... Now, this was claimed that Patriots and NASAMS were unable to be repelled recent attacks because they're out of ammunition. According to some, he's expanded more air defense missiles per day than required. Right? That they'll send missile after missile, you know, they see a drone and a surveillance drone and they shoot it down. Viktor Orban, I've said this often, Zelensky is a man desperate, unable or unwilling to end the conflict. He's constantly complaining about fairness, right? Now, Viktor Orban is taking the brunt because none of the other leaders will speak up against Merkel 2.0, Macron, who's Hollande 2.0, and Keir Starmer, who's Karl Marx 2.0. Although Marx never became Prime Minister or Emperor of the... you look it up. Marx wanted to be Emperor of the British Empire. All right? He's a coward. He doesn't suffer the consequences of this war. So he never complains that, oh, not enough has been done to win this war. No, not enough has been done to give me glory to Ukraine. Sloppy Ukraine forever. Come on, Russia, hurry up and glass this prick. Okay, glass Ukraine. Unfortunately, yeah, that'll be the end of the world. But you know what I mean? You know, when this war's over, Zelensky is a zero. He's another African dictator as far as anybody's concerned. Now, yeah, Belarus is a failed state too, because but at least there's, it's Russia's failed state. Let Russia deal with it. Russia should have left Ukraine to Russia to deal with, right? It's like if Scotland had economically collapsed and all the world, right, and suddenly Russia, China, Iran, Cuba, Venezuela and Vietnam went in, right, you'd be fucking pissed. Ukraine is almost half a world away from the UK, and yet there's the UK with a tiny little UK with its fucking finger up someone's bum, playing puppeteer and complaining that the world, is, complaining, right, all the time too, right? When do you think these whenever Zelensky's a whinging pom, along with, these stereotypes, right? We know Keir Starmer's, got puppet strings, on him, right? And this is the World Economic Forum wanting to carve up Ukraine's resources, trying to decide the where and when and Russia is locking those resources down to stop the West glutting the world economy. We have enough resources, but these greedy arseholes just want to consume it all now. Because the boomers want to have their last hurrah, pay for all our health care, and then pass on trillions in debt to kids who are never going to see any of those benefits. Because they're going to have to get rid of some, like they did with Greece. Look in America where you've got, Virginia, 150% raise for government and all these new taxes to pay for it. Right? This is bloody Britain. And remember, you're getting all these new taxes, but remember, you had a 1 million man march over the poll tax. But no, that's it's not fascism when we do it, right? But the best guarantee for peace is Russian security. You stop threatening Russia, and Russia won't have to keep tapping the world's largest bomb, the Tsar Bomber, and saying, you fucking invade, it's game on, baby, you are fucked. Right? We'll take the world with us. We will crush Europe. Paris, London, Berlin, 3 of the world's largest bombs. There is no air defense that can stop them. They will just fall horizontal. By the time you detect it, they're gone off, right? That's it. Oh, there's a bomb falling. Oh, and then poof, vaporized. 3-mile fireball. 42-mile high mushroom cloud. Radiation spread of over 50 kilometers. That's every fucking major city. And, right, you only have to destroy the capitals. The economic collapse would be devastating. Just from 3 nuclear bombs. Remember, right? Just the destruction of 2 cities in Japan crippled them for 20 years in rebuilding the economy. World War II, for all the damage of World War II, remember, crippled the European economy also for 20 years. So imagine 3 major cities. That's 20 years of economic crippled, right? Trying to rebuild them. Plus the loss of population, the loss of productivity. You're permanently disabled if they went to 6, because it escalates so far, right? The damage, right? Remember, the damage from Hiroshima was small overall. Could have been only, right? We're talking about much larger bombs. NATO has to stop being an offensive neo-colonialist power. And the problem is they won't defend their borders. That's the hypocrisy of it all. Is that Europe won't defend its borders. And how long, right, before you notice the hypocrisy of all these boomers? All their freebies come at your expense through high taxes, but the high inflation is dragging everything down, making everything unaffordable. They're literally causing wars, right, unnecessarily, right? Iran is trying to get rid of its corrupt, and you'll notice, right, they're all 80. Drive the boomers into the ground and you look, right? Get rid of all their past imperialist ambitions. All these imperialist ambitions, Keir Starmer, all come from old men. The Rothschilds, all these old, rich, corrupt, entrenched gangsters. Government should be rounding up the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, and all these others, the Soroses, and putting them in prison. The Italians warned us in the 90s about influence peddling, getting corrupt politicians to up the taxes, to increase the borrowings, to push inflation beyond 2.3%. Right? Europe tried to settle in on inflation and lower it, but banks wouldn't have it. Kept upping the interest rates for no reason. Until this is the problem. Democrats won't accept their side is the problem, and Republicans won't accept the fact that they've done nothing to undo the damage, right? Trump hasn't done enough yet, and he's got to do more, right? We're coming to the first year's over. Now you got to if you settle in and do nothing for the next 3 years, you're cooked. Look at Virginia. Look at what they're planning, right? So take this fucking Ukraine and shove it up your ass. Let France, Britain, and Germany destroy themselves, okay? You can't save idiots. You can't save people who expect you to carry them unconditionally, right? Because they only say, love me unconditionally, because they're going to cheat on you. Right? They're not offering you anything. They're asking you to give them everything. So thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Support me, please. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links in the link tree description below. In my profile, scan the QR code. Please. And thank you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.